Parsha's Vayishlach is this week's Parsha, and we are going to discuss a story. Which this story can probably be considered the first historical war that is being recorded in the Torah. The first historical war. There were other operations, but not as a war, obviously. An army war. What is that? Avram went out and he fought the 4 kings. They didn't come to fight over Israel, right?
Yes.
Avram and Yitzchak were also dealing with the shepherds of Gror, but it wasn't a war. It wasn't an army war. A war. It was a struggle between them. The first historical war that we actually stood up against the enemies in our own land, in the land of Israel, and actually the first time that you see that they were holding weapons in order to prove our ownership on the land and to make them fear and scared, is a story in this week's Parsha. What happens in this week's Parsha is, let's go back to last week. Yaakov was spending 22 years in the house of Lavan in Haran. With there he was trying to get married, and it took him a while until he was able to figure out his father-in-law's tactics. He gave him Leah instead of Rachel. Then he had to work another 7 years, first for Rachel, then for Leah. And then he stayed here for another 7 years. And he had his children, and he built his family together with his wives. And then finally, he's returning from Haran to Eretz Yisrael. He's going back home, beautiful family, and he's going back to the land which his father Abraham, his grandfather Abraham, his father Isaac were given a mission, the godly mission to be living in the land and developing the land and so on. They settled first in the city of Shechem. Shechem, they call it in Arabic Nablus. Shechem, actually, our sages tell us, was a place which was distant for trouble. Not only today. Even then, it was really a problematic area. City of Shechem was a problematic. And what happens there in the city of Shechem is a big tragedy. What's the tragedy? The daughter of Jacob, which her name is Dinah, is going out to look for friends, I guess. Go to the park, normal. You come back to a home which is considered your ancestors' home. You go to search out and to look out. What does the place look like? Who can you meet? Who you can join? And she gets kidnapped by the son of the mayor of Shechem. His name was actually Shechem, and his father's name was Hamor. You know what Hamor means in Hebrew? So it fits to the name, right? Shechem, the son of Hamor. And it doesn't seem like she gets raped by Shechem. And then the father doesn't seem like he's even interested to covering up the story, but rather with big chutzpah, he comes to visit Yaakov in his own tent, and he wants to present him with an offer. And he tells Yaakov, come on, let's make the marriage formal. Let's make it formal. Let's become one people. Let's become one nation. Let's live together. Let's get along with each other. And let my son have your daughter. You raped her at first? Doesn't matter. Chapter 34 in this Parsha, you can look it up, chapter 34 in Bereshit, Vateitzet Dinah bat Leah, it tells you the whole story. What does Yaakov do? The Torah tells us that Yaakov is quiet. He doesn't say nothing. Vecherish Yaakov ad Boam. Yaakov's children were outside, they weren't home at that point. And Yaakov kept silent, waiting until his sons will come home. Waiting for them to come home. And they came home, and they were really seriously angry. What is going on? As they describe it, Ki nevala asa b'Yisrael lishkav et bat Yaakov, v'chein lo ya'aseh. Shechem had committed a disgraceful act, taking Jacob's daughter, lying with her. Such an act was not done even by the nations at that time. Nobody did such a thing. They referred. And Hamor speaks to them in front of them, convincing them, trying. Itchatnu otanu, bnei techem titnu lanu. Get married to us. Have your daughters, have your family can marry us. Give your daughters to us. Take our daughters for yourselves. Live with us. The land will be free before you. Settle in it. You can do business in it. Whatever you want. And he even goes on, the father of Shem, and he offers all kinds of gifts and dowry and making it, trying to make a real, making it try to seem like it's kosher. It's okay. They tell him one thing. They say we have a problem. They don't seem to deal with any of his offers. We have a problem. What is the problem? A technical problem. You're not circumcised. And for us to have our sister marry one of you, you gotta be circumcised. Not mentioning the other 1,000 steps they have to take in between. Circumcision, as if this is the issue. אך בזאת נאות לכם, אם תהיו כמונו, לאמול לכם כל זכר, נתנו בנותינו לכם, בנותיכם ניקח לנו, היינו לעם אחד. If you're ready for that, we are in business. Not a problem. And this Shem and Hamor and family, they were very strong and influential in the city of Shem. And they went and they basically, for his desire, for his personal physical desire, he was ready to convince an entire city to go through circumcision. Everybody was convinced. Why? Because he wants. He wants. Shows you what does wanting mean, right? A lot of times people say, I want. I want to learn. I want to daven. You want? I want to show you what wanting means. This is called wanting. Try to get a whole city to go to circumcision because you want something. That's called conviction. That's called, commitment. I'm going to make it happen, whatever price. And they got him all. And then comes the famous story that on the third day, when the pain was strong, as you say in verse 25, on the third day, when they were in pain, Jacob's two sons, Shimon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took each man a sword. They came to the city quietly, and they came, the Torah says, betach. Betach means confidently. Why were they so confident? Because they knew that no one is moving. They're all lying in bed after a very difficult brizania, circumcision, especially on the third day. And at that point, Vayagu kol zachar, and they killed every male. And they killed Hamor, they killed the son Shem, and they took Dinah mibet Shem vayetzu, they left. They killed them all. Okay? The other sons came, and they took their possessions, their sheep, their cattle, their donkeys. No, that's the story. Kosher, not kosher. Was it right? Not right? Very
Jacob
interesting.
Is not happy with that.
Huh?
Jacob is not very happy with that.
So let's see. Is Jacob not happy? If you learn this week's Parsha, it doesn't see that Jacob is not happy with that. Jacob has a technical problem, is an issue. Let's see what Jacob says. Vayoma Yaakov Shimon veLevi. Jacob says to his sons Shimon and Levi, "Achaltem oti lehavisheni beyoshev baaretz baknani ubaprizi v'ani metei mispar v'nestu alai v'ikuni v'nishmadeti ani ubeiti." The only thing Jacob says is to his sons, "You have made my mind troubled, creating hostility between me and the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanite and among the Perizzites. I have only a few men. They can gather against me and strike me, and then I and my household will be destroyed." Meaning, he doesn't tell them that what you did was wrong. When you tell a people and convince them to go to circumcision, and you make them sound like there is a deal on the table, don't come behind their back and stop them when they are weak. He doesn't say that. He does not say that. He does not admonish them for the act. He only says that security-wise, I have a problem.
But he's also not supporting that.
He's not supporting, but he's not saying anything wrong.
Sure, but he's not saying it's good.
What? He basically says,
he's also not saying, he's not also praising them and saying, hey, that was great.
Does he say anywhere that you killed innocent people? There's 3 words he should have said. Guys, you killed innocent people. It's not their fault. I understand maybe killing Shem, Hamor. They killed innocent people. They were throwing the bombs on civilians. He does not say anything regarding that. He says, I have a problem. I have a problem, first of all, that, achartemoti means you made my mind troubled, maybe because there's going to be a bad name going out against us. You give a word, you don't keep to it. Okay, that's a problem. That's again, it's a moral problem. It's more like an ethical problem. Then he has a security problem. I'm scared. We are very few here. You gotta figure it out. If you declare war against an entire city, think twice what you're doing. They're gonna come all against us. We have no weapons. America is not supporting us. How are we gonna do it? Gotta be careful. You understand that? Mainly, what happens when they respond? They have a respond. Verse 31 is the respond. Vayomru. And Shimon and Levi said, 4 words. Akezona yasu et achotenu. Could we allow them to make our sister like a harlot? That's it.
But the question.
Does Yaakov respond to that? No. In other words, they are expressing their zealousness, their disgust, their concern on what happened to their sister, and they look into their father and they say, "You worried about they killing us? You worried about our word given to them? Look what they did to our sister. You should have never do it." And he's quiet. He should have said, what should have he say? Great. What about the civilians? He doesn't say it.
Yeah, but the they that the sons refer to, like you said, they're innocent people. They weren't. They're criminalizing all the innocent people as if they were.
That's the question I'm trying to understand. How did they criminalize the entire population because of the act of one idiot? Yes.
So I think that you're alluding that since he didn't say it's not moral, that by choosing to talk about the technical problem, then he's quietly supporting. But if I remember correctly from,
I'm
ages ago.
coming to
Yeah,
what
but
you
ages ago, this is where I have the
I will come.
challenge.
I will come to what you said. I will come to your point. I know exactly what you're referring
Yeah,
to.
this
Just
is
give me
not
a,
full, right?
yeah, I'm gonna come for it. Just give me a minute. But I want to still look what's going on over here.
But it's the
But-
daughter, right? Why would it, if my son came to me and says, I'm gonna do this in their name, I
It,
would say.
it didn't. They didn't say we're gonna do it.
Well,
They
they
didn't say
did,
anything.
they did it.
They did it. They
Right.
came after the fact.
So, yeah, but that's.
After the fact.
Yeah, it's not
One
a war.
second. Let's look one more step. What happens to the people after that act, that brave act? How do the neighbors respond? How does Egypt, Jordan, Iran, Iraq, how do they respond to what the Jews just did? No,
It
no.
didn't say, but
Take a
it-
look, next chapter
accepted it,
35,
right?
verse 5. Vayisau. Now they traveled. Vayehi chitat Elokim al ha'arim. The fear of God was upon the cities. Asher sivotehem were around them. Velo ratfu achrei bnei Yaakov. And nobody pursued, and nobody chased the children of Jacob.
You're saying it's a tight neighborhood, they deliver a message.
Very clear. Everybody knows. Don't start up with these guys. And nobody moved. And the Torah testifies it. It becomes a part of scripture. It becomes a part of, it seems like God agrees with it. Quiet. Not only doesn't Yaakov respond to it, doesn't Yaakov accuse them for doing it, but even that little shtickle that Yaakov was concerned about is being testified by the Torah that he was wrong. Nobody tried to lift his hands against them because they were afraid. They knew that those people are tachlis. Yes, they tricked them. The circumcision, that's what Israelis always do, the trick. But after the trick, they got him. And don't start up with it. They're traveling out of Shem, and nobody, the Torah says, Vayichitat Elokim. Chitat means tremble, fear. Everybody's afraid. What are they afraid of? It's a small group, tiny group. Oh yeah, it's a small group. But they know very well what they're doing, and they are tough. And with tough people, you deal tough. You try to be tough against them, they showed you who they are. So we're not starting up. But the issue becomes like Mr. Kobe Banatan, right? Did I announce your name clear? He has a real problem. The problem is that Yaakov contradicts himself, even though he is quiet. It seems like he even agrees. Let's press forward, as they say, at the end of the book of Bereshit. Yaakov is calling all his sons and he's giving each one some word of inspiration and a blessing. When it comes to Simon and Levi, what does he tell them? He rebukes them on their highest thoughts. Shimon veLevi Achim. He says, Simon and Levi are the brothers, Klei Hamas. He calls them in the word Hamas. Mechoratehem. He said, our brothers who plotted against Shem and against Joseph too, their murderous use of, he calls that weapons, has been stolen from Esau. You know where you got it? You know where you got your strength? You know where you got your inspiration? This has nothing to do with my family, Yaakov said. This comes from your uncle. You have taken that killing attitude, first with the people of Shem, he reminds them, and then when your own brother was thrown into the pit, Yosef, all comes from the same place, it tells them. Your uncle Esau, that's where you got it from. And therefore he says, Besodam al tobo nafshi, I don't want my name to be part of that mentioned in their conspiracy. Ki be'apam argu ish u'birtzonam ikru shor. He says it was with your rage, with your anger, you killed a man, which is Shem. And then with the same anger you expressed against Joseph was complete like a show, like a knife. And you look at that, and the first question is, besides the question about Shimon and Levi, that we have, is it right? Is it wrong? What gives you the right to kill a whole city just because one Shem decided to, to do it? But mainly the question is, what's going on with Yaakov? We know that Esav was a man of killing, right? We know that Yaakov, even in the beginning of this week's Parsha, when he sees Esav coming with 400 men with them, so it says that Yaakov got very afraid. And Rashi says, what was he afraid of? Rashi says his fear was also that he might have to fight those 400 men, and some of them might be innocent, and I don't want to have innocent people die because of me. This is Yaakov. But then, Yaakov, make up your mind. If you have something to say to them, why are you waiting until the last second before you die now? Oh, now you're getting up and telling them they're wrong. Who are you telling that? They're living a long life, 100 years, and they're thinking that they did the most great, most beautiful thing. So now suddenly you are against them. So anyway, obviously we'll understand that this relates to today's situation. It doesn't have to be described in details, but let's try to understand this discussion. And the discussion is obviously a very important discussion. And you can imagine that the commentaries are each one trying to offer their insight. But we're going to start with the Rambam, Maimonides. Maimonides, the qualifier of Jewish law, directly responds to the question of the killing of the so-called innocent people. In chapter 9, the last section of Rambam is called the Laws of King. And in chapter 9, the Rambam discusses what are the 7 Noahide laws. And one of the Noahide laws is called Dinim, which means they have to establish civil courts, which will deal with the issues that require a legal system to deal with. This is one of the 7 Noahide laws called Dinim. There are idol worship is one of them, murder is one of them, adultery, theft, and one is called Dinim. Dinim is one of the 7 Noahide laws. And Maimonides described in the law number 14. What is the meaning of establishing courts? It says that they have an obligation that in every region they have to establish judges who are going to judge and rule in regard to violators of the 6 previous commandments mentioned, and to warn the people who violate. Says the Rambam, a Noachite who violated one of the 7 commandments shall be killed by sword. This is his punishment, capital punishment for violating one of their 7 Noachide laws. Now listen to his words. Chapter 9, you can look it up, Allah 13, Rambam, Milchot Malachim, Laws of King. I'm reading in Hebrew because he wrote this book in Hebrew, and I would translate. And here you have a Hebrew speaking young man, so he can tell you that I'm not making up my translations. Says the Rambam, Umipnei zeh, and because of this, nitchayvu kol baalei Shechem hariga, all the inhabitants of Shechem, all the people living in Shechem, were all liable to the death penalty by sword. Why? Sharei Shechem Gazal. Shem, one of the inhabitants of the city of Shem, stole, kidnapped. Vehem radu, veyadu, and they saw it and they knew about it. Velo danuhu, and they did not bring him to justice. The Rambam is very clear with the explanation based on the Talmud somewhere. The Rambam, everything the Rambam, there is a source, an explanation of what happened in Shem. He says, we want to know what was the right of Shimon and Levi to get rid of the entire city, because they were all violators. They all violated their commandment to establish houses of justice. The fact that they knew, it was public information, because look at this chutzpah, he went to Yaakov's house, give me, and when they convinced everybody to circumcise, they didn't tell them, let's circumcise because we're going to get a lot of money from this people. Circumcise because I want their daughter, and the only way I'm going to get it. If that's the case, you grab this Shem and you bring him to justice. Look how he behaves. You take Mr. Sinwar and you don't vote for him, and you don't you find them and you bring him to justice, in a democratic justice court. What are you doing? Things that nobody's allowed to do. You stole, you kidnapped, you rapped, you raped. Says the Rambam, there you go. What?
The question.
You asking a question?
Yes.
Okay.
So kill the men. Why not the women too? Yeah.
What does it say about the woman?
Well, I mean, they're all, honorable. I mean,
But
they
what
gotta
is-
keep the laws too, right?
What does it say? He did not kill the woman. Does remind me.
No, I think they killed all
They
the
said they
men.
took the women, just,
No,
They
they
said they-
killed all the men, but
and women,
it didn't kill the women.
women and livestock.
It says woman. It says sheep.
Yeah,
Livestock.
Killed.
What?
את כל חילם ואת כל טפם ואת נשיהם שוב.
Right. They kidnap. Yeah.
Well, no, they kidnapped her, but then Rambam said that.
I
They
don't
had
know.
the right.
I don't know if women are a part of this. Could be the women have a certain exemption. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Because of their responsibility might not be equal to
Well,
men in
that's
this
true.
area.
Oh.
Possible.
You were working in the kitchen.
I mean, the very fact is that it says, even in the verse, it says, "Vayevozu et ha'ir asher timu achotam." In verse 27, it says, Jacob's sons came, they plundered the city that had defiled their sister. The city means that they looked at the entire city,
Oh, yeah.
all the inhabitants of the city. That's what the Torah calls it. The city that defiled their sister. They look at them, not just Shem defiled our sister. All of you are the ones who
Hamor was
consider.
a king, he wasn't a mayor.
What?
Wasn't he a king? And if he was a king, then the.
Since it
people
was the
all-
mayor, it doesn't say
But
it
the
was a king.
city, right?
It doesn't say he was a
They
king.
have principalities today.
I
where-
don't say the word king, first of all. I don't
Yeah,
think that's king. Yeah,
It's
you,
a city.
it told you it was the mayor. He was a mayor of a city. Actually, when what's it called? When Avimelech did kidnap Sarah, it says also in the verse that God told them that you're gonna die. If you're not returning here, you're gonna die. Ata v'kol asher lecha. Everything which belongs to you, I mean the entire kingdom, even here Abimelech was a king, because the fact that the cities, the inhabitants of the city did not take Abimelech to justice, and the fact that he stole Sarah, kidnapped Sarah, is clearly also a what's it called? Also an issue which, according to law, is what's it called? Is given consequences. This is the Rambam's opinion. The Ramban, you see, there is a Ramban with this Maimonides. That's why it ends with a mem in the end. Rambam is an acronym. Rabbeinu Moshe ben Maimon, Maimon's son. Ramban, in the other end, is Rabbeinu Moshe ben Nachman. It's Nachmanides. His father was Nachman. Two separate people lived around the same time, but separate. He actually comes in this week's Parsha. He brings what the Rambam says, and he strictly disagrees with the Rambam. He disagrees because mainly his legal disagreement is because there is a difference between a Noachide violating actively a prohibition or passively not following a positive command. If you see a Noachide stealing and you don't bring him to justice, he's a problem. He's violating a negative prohibition. If you don't establish a courthouse, you have a mitzvah to do it. So if you steal or if you rob, then you are in a negative prohibition. But if you don't bring him to court, you have a mitzvah to bring him to court. There's no negative prohibition of you're not violating something actively. You're just passively not doing what you are told to do. But Nachmanides says from a legal perspective, so-called a halachic perspective, you can't be liable for the death penalty just by passively not doing what you're meant to do.
Today they call it Good Samaritan statute. You don't have the requirement to act, but if you do.
Okay? And therefore he says, he also agrees they all had to die. But his approach of Ramban is that the reason they were liable to death is because the whole city was involved in many other issues. This was just a symptom. The story of Shem is a symptom of what and how the behavior of the city of Shem was. There were all robbers, gangsters. There was no courthouse.
It's like Sodom.
It was like people did what they want, and they actually did actively violate. And he brings a lot of sources in the Torah that's how they behave. Like it says in the verse, God warns us. Don't do what they do. What do they do? It's not just a story of Hashem. Don't do all the bad things that they do. And because of that behavior, therefore, is what they deserved halachically, legally punishment. That's what the Ramban said. Jacob's problem was, Jacob says, if they deserve it, it's right, but you have no obligation. You're not a court to do it. And that's what bothering Jacob. Why are you getting involved? Therefore, later in Parsha Vayishlach, he gets and rebukes them for that because they didn't feel that that's your obligation. They deserve it, but you don't have a mitzvah to do it, especially when you are a few, especially when we are, when we are sold. But there is another thing, and this is what relates to what we want to talk about. The famous Maharal of Prague, Rabbi Yehuda Levi, he wrote a commentary on the Chumash called Gur Aryeh, very classic commentator on the Chumash. He actually raises a question which actually gives us in his answer, gives us an understanding how even modern day, I think it's accepted throughout the world, what happens in a time of war. He asked a simple question. He says in the Rambam, he said, what do you want? Let's say they knew what Shem is doing. You want them to take Shem to court? He's like the big guy in the city. You don't start off with Shem. Everybody's afraid to start with them. He's like in charge. What do you expect people to do? It's like considered in halachic terms, there's a concept called honest. Honest means I am forced into a situation I can do nothing about it. No, nothing about it. You can't do nothing about it. What can you do to the fact that Shem is in charge? The Rambam wants you to be zealous and to follow the law. And since you are Noachide needs to establish a court, and you hear that Shem kidnapped the girl, take him to court. Try to take Muhammad Ahmad Daf to court. Try to take Yahya Sinwar to court. What do you mean court? You don't even know where he is. You get close to him, you're dead. Not me. The Arab, the Hamas neighbor who wants maybe to do the right thing, so to speak. The Maral of Prague says, what do you want? And the Rambam, he asks. And you know what he says? He says it's nothing to do with who this person is. Shimon the Levi had the right because that was a declaration of war. And it wasn't a war between one individual against a family. There was a war, one nation against another nation. And what does he say? What is Shem saying? When he comes, he didn't realize how his words are selling him out. He's telling Yaakov, let us become one people. Meaning, there is your people, and there is my people, my nation, and your nation. Let's become one nation. So you're recognizing there's another nation, and you decide that you want them to join. And the way you go about it is the way you went. You declared war against my people, says the Maral of Prague. In his words, הותר להם ללחום כדין אומה שבאה ללחום עם אומה אחרת שהתירה אותו התורה, וכן הם כל המלחמות. All the wars, modern day wars. What's the right of fighting a war? What gave America the right to come to Derdejan in Germany and destroy and wipe out so many innocent people, so to speak? When it comes to war of a nation against a nation, there is no innocent people. Anybody who lives in whatever country they live, they're a part of that war effort.
Is it that there really is no innocent people, or that you can't avoid killing innocent people?
Whatever way you're going to put it, the point is, the rule is, when it comes to war, it's not like there is the front and there is the back and there is the side. A nation against a nation, every citizen is a part of that struggle. That's the nature of it. That's the nature of it. And that's what happens in every war. No one asked and claims against America for what did you do against Germany. It was a war. We declared war, they declared war.
Also, the history books are written by the victors, not by the vanquished. So you can excuse your actions because you're the winners.
Well,
Or in
Japan,
other
right?
words, it's not about who's right, it's about who's left.
Japan, when they dropped the atomic bomb on the whole city, like you have a bunch of people that,
The point is, it's a war.
yeah, but it's a war.
It's a war. War as is on exceptional rules. So the Maral of Prague understands Shimon ben Levi the same idea. He says, "Hello, Gaza, you had democratic elections. You voted them in. You're part of it." And the truth is, I know, and we all know very clear, that if I don't watch, I watch very little of what's going on. I read, in the morning and evening, I want to know what's going on, obviously, but I don't watch, I don't like, the movies is not for me, the whatever, the clips. But I did see, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, but they released them amongst the people of Gaza. And you see the way they're standing there, kids, women, shouting. If not for the
Of course, nothing.
if not for the importance to keep to the conditions this moment, they would have taken those hostages at the same time and tear them to pieces. You see the hatred in their eyes. Clearly, see it. It's not a secret.
By the way, just sort of relate, like, when they show the pictures of the young Israeli soldiers that died, all the pictures, these are young men, they're smiling, they're, whatever they're doing, it's a friendly face. But you see pictures of of the Palestinians. I mean, these are like dark figures, like it's like it's the difference between night and day.
But the thing is too, that, Israel told them, we're coming in, so you stay there, that's your own one, that's not Israel. I'm gonna,
It's a nation against a nation. And Shimon and Levi, when it came to a nation, says the Maral, there is no question. You deal with the nation, you deal with the population. There is no excuses.
The head of the nation was not Shimon Levi, it was Yaakov.
Oh,
well,
Yaakov, personally, the Ramban says that the reason Yaakov himself didn't get involved, the Ramban actually brings from a medrash that he was ready to get involved. If they wouldn't do the job, he eventually would help them. But at that point, he was like, waiting to see. But let's see what happens next. And I think this is also important for our discussion. So what happens in Parshas Vayechi? If it's all kosher, the Rambam's opinion, the Ramban's, Maral of Prague, I shared with you 3 different approaches now, right? Understanding this concept. And I'm sure if you look in commentary, you're going to find some other great insights to justify Shimon and Levi. But what happens next? What does Yaakov get upset later? That's what we are wondering. I think this is important to us, but after all, we are not in Gaza, and we are not getting involved now, praying for the war. We are part of it, obviously, but something that we can relate to our personal lives. But that, I want to share with you an unbelievable insight that the Rebbe says. The Rebbe says, in between the story of Shem and Yaakov's death, there is story number 2, where Shimon and Levi is using power, physical power, to do something physically, zealously against somebody. Yes, with all justifying purposes. At that time, the second time, it's Yosef, right? They throw him into the pit, and they scream, let's go kill him. Let's throw him to one of the pits, and then we're going to see what happens to his dreams. Interesting. The same claim that they were claiming before on behalf of the family, killing people on behalf of the family, are now ready to kill someone against the family. They get their own brother. And if something happens twice, the Rebbe says, Eppa starts smelling not so 100%. In other words, the act is justified, let's say. But there's something in the person's personality that is questionable. Why is he pressing the what do you call the headache?
Yeah, the
No, in English.
trigger.
It's
The
pressing
trigger.
on the trigger a little too quick.
Quick.
They say there's a famous thing of shuls. Somebody who keeps on commenting to people, be quiet, don't talk. See, something is wrong in his relationship with his wife too. It's a famous thing, goes back for generations. Keeps on getting up and having everybody knows what to do and why that's okay. Some shit. I hope his wife is okay. Why? It's right. He wants to make sure that everybody's quiet. I understand. It's too often, too quick. And Yaakov actually uses us in the word by admonishment. He says, "Ve'apam argu ish, ubirtzonam akru shor." With their anger, they were ready to kill. They killed Ish, which is Shem, and with their anger, they wanted to uproot Joseph, was compared to an axe. In other words, the Rambam doesn't talk about the act itself. Is it right, like the Rambam says, or like Ramban says? The Yaakov is now talking about what is the attitude of yours. The magia. Why is it that you are the one? That maybe has to do a little bit of your genes, the uncle Esav. Something went in there into your DNA, and you're the one who always finds a reason to kill people. I'm not so sure that you're doing it because of the mitzvah of establishing justice, or because of the mitzvah of protecting the world from people who are not following God. I don't know. Something is there. Something doesn't smell right. And that's what he reproves them. That's why he rebukes them. He wants to know that where it comes from is also from a clean place.
Was it proper for them to plunder the city? If all they were trying to do was to reestablish their honor, and they killed the people that were involved, then why should they also?
Maybe in other words, they overdid it. You know, the previous Rebbe, as they say a story that the previous Rebbe was treated by a doctor here in America, and the doctor was getting ready to give him a shot. And you see, he saw the doctor is like cutting his nails and putting his hand with what do you call it? Sanitizer, and cleaning. And the Rebbe said, yeah, I guess before you give a shtoch, before you give somebody a needle, you gotta clean yourself very well before doing it. In other words, you don't just come and it's my job, I'm the doctor. Boom. I don't know. I want to see you getting ready. I want to see you being sensitive. I want to see you, taking it seriously. You don't just come and stech and knack. There's always the Jew who is ready to run for the sake of God and hug another Jew and help her because there's a mitzvah to be kind. But unfortunately, there's also that Jew which is always being ready the first to demonstrate and the first to shout out and the first to. You have to always examine yourself before any demonstration, even for the sake of God. Who is it coming from? I heard 2 weeks ago a good insight. Someone said as follows: we learned about Yaakov and Esau while being in their mother's womb. Yaakov she felt bad with the pregnancy. And Rashi says, because of what? Walking by a shul, Jacob is running. With the child pulling towards getting out. Walking by a place of idol worship, again is pulling. Wasn't sure what kind of child do I have? And then she was told, whatever, to children. So somebody actually was called the Rabbi of Kloisenberg, one of the Hasidic rabbis from our generation. Not alive, he passed away in 1994. But he asked the following question. He says, why was she so concerned that Rivka, why was she so concerned that the son is trying to go out when there's a place of idol worship? You should have think when she walks by a house of holiness, he's obviously trying to merge out what he wants to study. When he walks by a house of impurity, maybe he's walking out because he wants to demonstrate. So he's actually a good boy. He's only doing good things, and when there's something bad, he wants to make Afghanah, he wants to scream against. So you said, I guess it shows you that if somebody goes on every demonstration, something's wrong. Even demonstrating, once in a while, you go for something important and crucial. Somebody is constantly motivated to go out and demonstrate and scream and shout, and is always there on the front. Something doesn't add up. Something fishy. Who became the leader after Moshe?
Sure.
Who became the high priest? Aaron. Why not Pinchas?
Pinchas was also a very violent man.
He wasn't a violent man. He was
He's-
zealous.
He was zealous.
They said he's
He was zealous.
Yes.
And he acted violently. And you know what? He never ended up to be the leader of the Jewish people. He became a Kohen, and his children are Kohanim. He got a great reward. But there's a Hasidic saying, actually, very interesting Hasidic saying. why was Mount Sinai chosen to be the mountain to receive the Torah? Why couldn't they use the famous mountain, Mount Moriah? So many things happened. The temple stood on Mount Moriah. Remember? Isaac was the binding up. Isaac was on Mount Moriah. Noah built his ark on Mount Moriah. Why couldn't the Torah be given on Mount Moriah? Why did they have to pick a new mountain, Sinai? There's a Hasidic saying that says, a mountain which allowed to have a Jew lying on his altar to get killed, even it didn't happen in the end. Just to give a potential to slaughter a Jewish boy is not a place that the Torah is going to be given. That's not the Torah. The Torah is peace. The Torah is, so what does it mean? Obviously, the Torah is full of outrage and consequences. But in a system, in an organized, systematic, no
That's not the main.
also no instinctive response, something which comes in a very, very specific order. I remember when Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated. I was teaching then a class at Microsoft the week. And I had secular Jews who came. They came all ready to, bombs of questions, ready to attack, because officially the guy who assassinated him was wearing a kippah, so must be my best friend, right? And they came with all kinds of questions and challenges, and I kept saying that it's not according to Torah. It's nothing to do with Torah. They said, "What are you talking about?" And they said in Torah it says we give this punishment. It basically came up that in the Torah there's a lot of consequences of taking people's lives. So don't make it that the Torah is so.
Sure, but that's not mainstream.
It's not about mainstream. What I told them is, and actually that started a class in Talmud called Sanhedrin, which deals with capital punishment.
Oh, yeah.
I told them, listen, I can read for you a piece of Talmud just to show you how difficult it is for a court to actually materialize any of those consequences of punishment. Can you imagine that the Talmud says that if a court does kill a person once in 70 years,
It was a murderous
as a
court.
court of murders? Why? Because the questioning of the witnesses, what they saw, to determine whether it happened or didn't happen, and to make sure that the murderers were warned and they knew that they're going to get punished. There's so many details and so many specific challenges to avoid the killing. Maybe it's not. So you're telling me that this is just, go ahead and kill and destroy. What are you talking about? And that's the truth. So in the one end, yes, there is a time and there's a place when you got to do what you got to do. And I believe that after the pogrom we experienced and the type of people it came from, and from a nationality called Hamas, I don't think they deserve to be dealt with delicacy. Absolutely not. They are next terrorists. I mean, they were all raised to be terrorists 30 years ago. When I came into Seattle, and the little videos was going around of camps training kids to be killers. That's who came in now to Be'eri and all those places. At the same time, we got to make sure that we don't lose our compassion, we don't lose our sensitivity, and we understand the importance of life while things like this happen. That's a special bracha. May Hashem help. We should merit to have the right judgment. We should not lose lives because of that. And only good things. Before we continue, so everybody is here by the table. I'm giving you a gift to consider for Saturday night, a special gathering that you don't want to miss. Delighted. I'm giving you a personal invitation.
Thank you.
7:30. I know Abraham, I saw you registered already. You want to come join us for a special Fabrengen? We'll have a malka, nice food, nice inspirational talk, a little warmth. in honor of the 19th of Kislev, which is Mr. Kamika. I'm looking forward to see you on Saturday night, since you didn't make it tonight. To come join us. I hope you can make it from Chicago, from Illinois.
Long drive.
Long drive. Anyway, so come join us, please. It'll be very nice to see you, and it's going to be good for you to come and get a little uplifted, inspirational evening in honor of a very special day. It's called the New Year's for Hasidus. Who is that? Rabbi Kanelsky. Who is he speaking?
President.
Oh, same thing. You see, everybody's doing the same. Thank you, Laila Tov, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're very welcome. Come join us on Saturday night, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you.